Hello, welcome everybody. Pleasure to have you on board today. I would just like to share today about investing into real estate. So, have you thought about investing into housing? Do you prefer to think about investing into the housing, whether you want to live into the house, so you think of buying it? Or have you ever thought of like buying the real estate just to as an investment? So this is what I would like to talk about today. So if you have been interested in this or have been thinking about it, then this is the right place to be. So welcome. So, welcome to Sylvia Shares here. This is my YouTube channel. And so, I share a lot about time and financial freedom. And why do I like to share about this? It's because I have been in a physical business before. After 2 years, ended up losing everything completely. And I learned the importance at that point in time of having financial freedom, because when you crash down and you literally lose everything, that sends you into depression for like literally 10 months. So you can imagine how it feels like. But hey, we are right back, and now I can be able to tell you all about what has enabled me now to recover and start putting my head up high, and I can be able to talk about this today. So, first question: are you staying in a house that you have bought yourself? Please raise your hand if you have. I would like this to be a little bit more interactive. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. Like even just answer me. Let it be interactive so that we can make it the most interesting way possible. Don't you agree? And so, first and foremost, like, what do you think about when you're buying a house? I'm going to talk about like buying the house where you decide to stay in, and the things to consider, and what you need to put in mind when you're considering the buying and everything. So like when you're considering the buying, you need to ask yourself like, are you having the budget, or are you borrowing the money, or are you going to put out cash and everything? And so when you're having this budget in mind, you need to put two things into consideration. First, where you've already considered the budget. That's the reason why you've thought about it, I imagine. You've thought about the security. You've put in mind the future, because I imagine most people like buy maybe just before, like maybe they have children or something of a sort. So you want to literally think about like, where are the children going to go to school? What kind of status or area would I like to stay? Is it going to be secure? Am I being able to walk to my kids to school? Am I going to have too much traffic to consider, like on your way to work or on your way to the school for the kids and everything? For me, this has been the most vital thing, because I feel like there's nothing as like horrible as being stuck in traffic for hours, because I mean, time is money. Wouldn't you agree with me? And so, if you can be able to buy on time, be able to consider the fact that you don't have to go drive too far away. This is like really, really important. And then the other vital point that you need to consider is, are you putting into the budget like the charges? Like there's always the service charge and monthly charges that come along you having an apartment or a house. Or that's also another thing to consider. Are you considering buying a house, or are you considering buying an apartment? And the reason why you need to consider this, it's because, like, for example, in an apartment, you will have charges that are shared among all other tenants and everything. Thank you, Randa, for joining me. Don't hesitate to ask any questions. Yes, time is money for real. Yes. And so this is why it's very important to consider, just buying a place where everything is like around you. Like the supermarket where you have to shop is not too far away. We all have to think about the environment and not polluting so much. Just having to go for these tiny things that are so important. Like you imagine even just forgetting like a piece of bread. Like you go for shopping, you have a lot in your mind, and you have to run out of the house just to go get something that was so important that you didn't think about when you're going out. Now imagine if you thought about, buying the house like too far away from everything. Well, so you need to consider these things like very, very, very well. And then the other part of considering an apartment or a house is the fact that in an apartment you have shared charges, yes, but I would say what is like maybe valuable in a house is, despite the fact that you have all the charges to yourself, but it is always in the future that you have to think about, like in the sense of like you can put an emergency like budget every month to think about. Tell yourself like if the heater broke down, or if the gas broke down, or if the roof broke down. But that's why the most vital thing to consider also is having insurance. So you putting in place insurance. So all these things, sometimes you may be so excited. You're like, oh yes, I'm buying an apartment. Oh yes, I'm buying a house finally. But you find yourself so overwhelmed with the house, with the charges that come along that you didn't put in mind before. Like now the insurance is like number one priority, I must say, and number two, location is like the second factor to consider, and then the third factor to consider is the charges, and then fourth factor to consider is also the taxes. Find out from your country. Thank you for joining me, Ashria and Dilaran. It's a pleasure. Thank you for being here. And don't hesitate to ask any questions. If you are finding this interesting, I'd be glad to be able to answer. And tell me also if you have considered investing into housing, or, invested into where you're living right at this time. And so the fifth factor is the taxes. Sometimes you may go in an area where it's not too busy, and so you might find you're paying very, very high taxes because you are paying generally for the taking care of the environment. And I mean, well, even the Bible says, pay Caesar what belongs to Caesar. So we can't do without it, right? Anyway, so taxes are really vital to consider into all that budgeting and making sure that you have all these amounts like in your head, so that along the year you don't find yourself like so frustrated that you're not able to make ends meet. And so, another thing I would say is like if you're putting in a bigger chunk of money, I would say if the bank is lending you a bit, because it's always, Grant Cardone always advises a lot and says that if you invest into a house, you're better off keeping a bigger chunk of the money in your bank to always have cash flow, because cash flow is much more important for all emergencies in life and everything. But you see, if you are able to leverage the amount of money that you are having and make the bank pay for the bigger part of the loan, so that you are only reimbursing very little amounts, then you have higher purchasing power. It enables you to be able to leverage and be able to do so much on the side for yourself. Don't you agree? So if the bank is able to lend you this, then you should jump on it. Go for it and tell them that, I mean, since you have a bigger amount of money, they see you are, you're solid, so you're not going to have like a break it, you're not going to break down when you get like other ideas maybe coming along or something. And even just having a bigger chunk of money remaining in your account, it opens your head to other investment ideas, and which I'm going to talk about on how you can invest into other housing opportunities. So let's say now where you are, okay, you have bought this house and you are comfortable now. You have put all these five factors into consideration and you're comfortable into your house now. And the loan that you're refunding is so little that it gives you a higher purchasing power. And so tell yourself, like, in your neighborhood, you hear there's a garage that is available and another one is available, and you tell yourself, like, hey, you can talk to your banker to eventually allow you to buy the garage because you're able to rent it out, and especially if it's near you, so you're capable of managing it very well and very easily. And so every time you tell yourself you're purchasing something that is of a lower value, let's say, like, I would say, maybe talk about housing in Paris, like a three-bedroomed house in Paris, depending on where you are, it's between like 450,000 euros to, like, say, a million to even 2 million euros, depending on the department where you are and the arrondissement where you are in Paris. So you realize that you're able to get this smaller garage, like, let's say, for 20,000 or 15,000 euros or something of a sort. So it may sound small, but the more you increase the income coming into your account, the more your banker is happy with you. And the more you realize that you have a higher purchasing power. Because if, let's say, you bought the garage for like 15,000 or 20,000 euros, because that's like roughly how much they cost. Like, let's say you buy the garage for 20,000 euros, but you're refunding to the bank only, let's say, maybe 100 euros. 100 euros, it will take you maybe a few years to just reimburse everything and all that, but you're getting 150 euros of rent, or 200 euros of renting out your space to somebody else who needs that garage. So you have literally 100 euros extra entering into your account, and you're only having that 100 to pay back the bank. So literally, you're almost eating from the bank. So making you enjoy, like an extra 100 euros, while the credit is actually being paid by the tenant, basically. So with this, you're able to finish within a short period of time, and you decide, like, hey, I'm going to buy another garage. And this is why it's like interesting and important to buy like smaller units, or even go in an area where it's way cheaper, not in your category, not in your like social status or something of the sort. So you go to the outskirts completely, maybe in the province area or something of the sort. If it's buying land and deciding to construct, put in consideration all the budgeting, how long it's going to take you, how, the time you're going to have to juggle between your place and going to the construction site and everything. But if you have someone you trust and you can be able to do this, then I think it will be the most profitable idea, because then by constructing and then putting up extra units to be able to sell out or rent out, then it gives you much more profit. But another way you're also able to invest out into housing that is pretty interesting, like, is the Airbnb. Well, right now there's a lot of COVID, and you all agree with me, right? That I mean, tourism is very low. People are not traveling so much and everything. But think about how things were until end of 2019. Until that point in time, everywhere Airbnb was just like rocking the world. Then they have just become so big. So imagine when you have like an extra space into your house, like maybe a room, and maybe you're not alone. I would suggest, because I tried it once, I cannot lie. I ended up freaking out myself because I kept asking myself stupid questions like, what if the persons are gonna come and attack me in the room or something? It was a summertime, my family was away on holiday, and I was like, hey, I need some extra cash, and there's a lot of demand, let me rent out like a room or something. But I can't lie to you, I ended up freaking out, and I just kept panicking like a fool. So it sounded really silly, but it went well in the long run. One was a policeman, so it kind of felt safe in the long run. And the friend was just the best friend or something of the sort. So it all went well. I was able to gain the 150 euros just for one night, because when you're in an area which is busy and you can be able to rent out your extra room and everything, it's excellent. But if you're afraid and freaking out like me, so I never did it again, because the experience of the fear before that wasn't really amazing. But well, fear prevents us from doing so many things that I would like to advise maybe somebody else not to be afraid and to go for it, so that you don't lose out on an opportunity that could be interesting for you, right? So are you finding this interesting so far? Is it giving you ideas on how you can be able to invest? Maybe raise your hand and, just let me know that uh, you you're finding this interesting. Are you going to invest into housing? Are you thinking of about like how you can grow your portfolio? Because my idea of sharing all these investment ideas is literally to help people never to experience what I went through when we lost everything, and I had to just, well, I went through that depression. It's not interesting. I have done a video just explaining a little bit how to recover from depression. And so finding yourself when you are totally like almost handicapped, like you have nothing to live through, but thank God we had an apartment to be able to give us rent, to be able to survive, and family to support and everything. So I would like my viewers to be able to think about investing into housing. Even if you're still renting where you are, think of the many years you're going to pay all that rent to somebody else, and that apartment will never be yours. Well, some say if the charges are too high, they don't want to consider it and think about maybe buying because of all the extra charges that come along it. But if you went for a house or something of the sort, think about it of, it can even benefit your children or your family in the future if you were to leave or something of a sort. So I think it's very interesting to think about just investing into the housing in the long run, because it's going to be an added value to your portfolio. And even later on, once you're feeling comfortable and you are able to pay off like the one you have, you're capable of even upgrading and taking yourself to another better house, and be able to rent out where you had been, rent living yourself and everything. And this is now an extra income that is forever solid. Like, when I think about housing, I tell myself, like, if there was trouble, you lose a job, you just something happens, when you have a roof on top of your head. I mean, nobody to come and chase you out of your house, nobody to come and bother you in your home, nobody to tell you like, hey, you haven't paid rent, you gotta go, I need my rent or something of. I think this is just the frustration that so many people go through. And we can get rid of all this, because if you are working and you can be able to even ask the bank to be able to advance you this cash, to be able to, be in a place that you can call your own place, your own house. I think it's some sort of security in a way. And just, you've seen the way COVID has really destroyed so many jobs, and so many people have found themselves homeless and everything. And I find that just so sad. Like, you know you wonder, like, somebody was doing so well, and all of a sudden they didn't think about having an extra portfolio. They hadn't thought about um just putting some security on the side. And so if you are renting out and you have to be kicked out of the house, you imagine the situation. Imagine what these homeless people are feeling, and especially in winter. Don't you agree that it's very sad to find yourself outside, like, you have nowhere to go, you have no one to house you? I think it's a frustration. It's not something that I wish for any of the people who are following me, because if you have internet, it means you're knowledgeable enough to be able to think about investing into yourself. You're knowledgeable enough to hear this because there's a reason why you're listening to this today. It means that it's destiny or the universe just calling on you to listen to me today and think about how you can reunite all your funds together, talk to your bank, talk to your family, talk to your partner, or think about yourself and just tell yourself, like, maybe it is time that I invested into a house. Even if it's a rental house, then buy that small place, rent it out to somebody, because then it's your bank just literally paying for it. So if anything ever happened to where you are, you at least have somewhere to go back to. You have a place you can say, I can call this my place. So I really hope that you've really found this video valuable, and that it has been interesting, and that you are going to consider putting something into yourself, putting that investment into yourself. And I have been sharing different investment ideas on putting, having 10 portfolios, because as my best mentor, Jim Rohn, I like to repeat, says, for you to attain financial time and financial independence, you have to have at least 5 to 10 portfolios. So this is me giving you the opportunity to learn of all the opportunities that are out here. So take this opportunity and don't hesitate to be able to just invest into yourself. So if you like this video and you would like to hear um, more investment ideas that will enable you to put in place the portfolios that you require, so that in 5 years time that you can be free to travel, to just live, to love, to laugh because it's important, and to learn, keep learning new things, and just be happy. Thank you for joining me. Don't hesitate to like the video, share with your friends, share with somebody who will find this important and who will be able to know why it is important for them to invest into their housing and to buy something for themselves. And don't forget to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and to just hear more about, investing, and why is it important to find the time and the financial freedom. We're going to talk about travels, we're going to talk about all the good places that you have there to see, and why it's important for you to find this freedom, the time and financial freedom. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope you're going to be tuning in. Put the bell on so that you don't forget to watch any videos that I'm going to be releasing onwards. Much love. Leave, love, love, and keep learning. Thank you. Bye bye.